the power of the WNBA is Caitlin Clark, and she once again put on a show. 24 points, 19 assists, sets the record in the WNBA. And Chad, the smashing continues. Smashing in the stat books, what she's doing in the consistency, and the eyeballs that will be glued anytime that she's playing basketball in the professional league.
You know, I'm trying to think of parallels for what we're seeing with Caitlin Clark and the phenomenon that is her ability mixed with the interest in her, both at Iowa and now in the WNBA. And the word I keep coming back to is different. It's not necessarily about race or about politics or about this or that with Caitlin Clark. It's that she's different. It's that she looks different from a lot of stars. She plays different from a lot of stars. And the parallels I keep coming back to, there's really two of them. One, Japanese sensations in baseball is one of them. Think about Ichiro when he came about in 2001. And it wasn't just Japanese people or Japanese Americans that loved Ichiro and watching him play. It was Americans that were baseball fans that were blown away by this guy who played very differently because he played a style of baseball that was different than what we saw in Major League Baseball at the time. I think of Hideo Nomo, who had a very different wind-up and delivery. That was a sensation to watch. I think of Shohei Ohtani and playing as pitcher and slugger also, and how that captivated people. When I think about the basketball equivalent to what we're seeing with Caitlin Clark, I think about Pistol Pete Maravich and what it must have been like to have been at LSU back in the day or early on in his NBA career and watch someone that played what appeared to be a completely different style of basketball from everyone else. Behind the back passes, off the elbow passes at times, hitting guys in the side of the face because they weren't ready for whatever pass was coming their way, eyes in the back of his head. That was Pistol Pete, and in many ways, that's Caitlin Clark right now. So I'm not saying Caitlin Clark is the first to ever do this. Basketball's been around for a while, and Pistol Pete was the first to do many different things in the game. But then you had Steph Curry come in and start bombing from way behind the three-point line, and that was a new era in the sport also. But for women's basketball, Caitlin Clark is very much a Pistol Pete type figure that I would be amazed to see what it would have been like if you could have witnessed Pistol Pete come about in 2024 with social media, with all the ways to see highlights, watching everything else. Hutton, that's the closest equivalent I can find to her impact on the WNBA and the way she plays. And there's no better example than scoring 24 points and having 19 assists in a game. That's not a rookie record. That's an all-time WNBA record.
And she's going to set the all-time assist record as well, probably in her next game, which doesn't come for another month. But she's gone 20 and 10 at least 3 times this season. And I mean, the thing is, like, there was a player earlier in the season that said, "Oh, she's just a 3-point shooter. You know, she's one-dimensional, whatever." And she's not. The way she passes the ball is exceptional. The anticipation, the instinctive nature of what she's able to find in finding the open player. I don't know if you learn that as much as you just know that, and you're able to do it. At times, she's probably too unselfish, but there is a Stockton Malone aspect to what they're doing and how they've built that roster, too, with some young players. Chad, the thing that comes to mind for me in the comparison of Pistol Pete, I thought was, in reading and just seeing somehow, more about the degree of difficulty.
Yeah.
I don't know if Caitlin's doing that.
No.
But, I mean,
he was more Harlem Globetrotter than what Caitlin Clark is, for sure.
Yeah, it was like passing the ball was almost like Bird playing with his left hand.
Right.
You know, like you're trying to make it look flashy. You're right. The Globetrotter is a perfect example.
How can I change a no-look pass to look even cooler?
Yeah.
Was Pistol Pete in many ways.
Yeah,
the look-away pass.
I'm sure Caitlin Clark can do that. You know, can make it look flashy.
Well, her accuracy on the passes is very Pistol Pete-like.
Now, she does have a ton of turnovers, but I think that in part is due to just the sloppiness of some of the players in the league, too. Maybe some of her teammates. I mean, we see players that are just dropping the basketball sometimes. You know, like sometimes that's just tough. But I think the magic to it is more than you mentioned race or timing or just the college phenomenon. I think it's more about the individual that plays in any sport that's not, let's just say that's not in the power two, meaning I'll go as far as NFL and NBA. Because you're watching Jordan, but there's plenty of basketball fans. Plenty of baseball fans too, but you're right about the Japanese players and the pitchers especially. There are certain players, Gretzky. You wanted to go watch Gretzky, even though you're not a hockey fan. We went and watched Messi, but we're not big MLS fans or soccer fans. That's what Caitlin Clark's brought to the league, and she's very consistent in how she goes about it. And that's the other aspect I think that we would do and use with Pistol Pete in that era. Is no matter if you're a fan of LSU or whatever you're wanting to go watch, you were going to watch him and see the flash and the lights on the grand stage every single night without the rest. There's no load management going on here. And she's now entering a month-long, almost a month. They'll be back on August the 16th, I believe, is when the Indiana Fever will play again because they're entering this Olympic break. This is her first break since when? Think about the last 2+ years for her and the whirlwind and the Caitlin Clark tour that has had upwards of 10 to 20,000 every stop, And I think that certainly led to the slow start for her rookie season. But the way she's gone into this break and thinking about the rest that she's going to have, she's already playing this well. She's not that far from the all-time assist record. She's going to break a lot of records. 13 games left, roughly, for them when they get back. She'll be supercharged when she comes back.
Yeah, and I do think that being different helps in terms of interest and eyeballs. And I'll give some different examples here. And look, and I'm talking post, civil rights movement, post 1940s, 50s, and 60s, different benefits to being different. A lot of old school sports fans are very resistant to change in many ways. But, I'll give you some examples. Tiger Woods in golf.
That's a great one.
This is a different race we're talking about, but that was different for golf. The Williams sisters. Let's go back and look at the history of women's tennis ratings when they came on the scene and what it did to improve those ratings. Whether you like the Williams sisters or not, we're watching. We're watching because that's different. Two black girls from South Central LA, that wasn't your typical upbringing for tennis. So we paid attention, whether people, and again, some people liked it or didn't, whatever. People watched, people paid attention. I go back to Caitlin Clark with that too. I don't think many people expect to see a white girl running around and playing that way, coming from Iowa and playing for that team and now dominating the WNBA the way she is in her rookie year. That's different. It's not racist. It's not all about race. But in many ways, it is about being different. And when you have that different thing you're seeing, if you can stand out in a crowd at times because of your play, your style of play, could also be your race, could also be your upbringing, where you're from. I gave a number of examples of where people are from in the world and how it stood out and changed the way we thought about the game or changed the way we watched a certain player or certain style. It helps. And we're seeing that Caitlin Clark effect right now in the WNBA. And if I'm a WNBA player or coach, I would start to embrace this because we saw it with the media rights deal. It's only going to increase your popularity, your wallet. It's going to help you. So let's break away from I only want you to root for and follow the WNBA if you completely agree with me and move into, hey, these people may disagree with me. A lot of the fans of Caitlin Clark might, but it's great for our sport because now we're getting more eyeballs on our product, and it's going to help all of us. I think that's the right approach now for the WNBA.
Well, it's helped.
Embrace it.
It's helped even the best player in the league, which is A'ja Wilson. You look at her stat line; it is phenomenal. If you're just comparing the top player, she's averaging 27 points and 12 rebounds per game, 2 assists and nearly 2 steals. That's awesome. But it's not like we were talking about A'ja Wilson, right?
No.
And this is the surge and the momentum that, I said she's now going into a break. There is the All-Star break, too. They play 2 nights from now. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and the All-Star team, the WNBA's best, against Team USA. And at the time when the rosters were released, Chad, what did we say about Caitlin Clark? We didn't put her on the roster based on how she was playing.
We assumed they knew better.
And, well, at the time, I agreed with the fact that, well, they're going with players that they know, and they go with players. Yes, and they've got some established players, yes, but also, I mean, she wasn't going to start. That's what we were saying. You're going to put her on the team, but is she going to play? I mean, now she's playing like that. So if 2 nights from now, if she's lighting it up, wait for that storyline, because she's an alternate. But would she want to go? Like, she's not competing in the three-point shootout or over All-Star Weekend. For what reason, I don't know. UNESCO's not doing it either. I'm sure they have good reasons for it. I haven't seen why, and I'll Google it now. But she declined to do it, the invitation. However, Saturday night live on ABC, I think it's 7 Eastern. That is going to be awesome. One of the best, most competitive all-star matchups we've seen. And the WNBA beat Team USA going into the Olympics for Tokyo. So it's not unprecedented, and I expect a shootout, pardon the pun.
I was reluctant when the team was released, I think 12 members of that team, to say that, oh, she belongs or she deserves a spot. After the first couple weeks of the season where she had a rough start, now I look at it and say, yeah, she probably is one of the 12 best. The way she has quickly developed into this player that's breaking records in games, I think she's probably one of the 12 best. Now, I will go back to my previous thought on this and say that I still believe she could be a disruption to the chemistry of that team and that locker room by no fault of her own.
She's already going to be. She's going to be asked. They're going to be asked a lot about her.
And I think that her being there, and you got to weigh this if you're Team USA, there are older players on that team that have said negative things about her, that think she's getting too much attention, too much credit, that want to knock her down a peg or 4. And because of that, it could lead to some team chemistry issues if she's playing more than someone else, or she's getting in the game, or they're getting fed up with being asked questions, which, Hutton, you said it, they're going to be asked those questions regardless.
No doubt.
So they better get used to it. But I can see that side of it also, and that's not Caitlin Clark's fault, but it's reality.
Well, and they're going to face her Saturday.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's going to be cool about this. And we get to see the interaction between her and Angel Reese as well.
Well, kudos. I actually watched the end of the game last night. Again, amazed by how much WNBA I'm watching. Indiana Fever, Dallas Wings. I turned over to the end. Kudos to Caitlin Clark.
Wings with an S or a Z?
S. Okay. One of my favorite WNBA teams because they actually end with an S, the Dallas Wings. Very, very rare in the WNBA. Mystics, another one of those teams. Sparks, another one. So I'm watching the game, though, and typically she's doing a lot of complaining to officials. She had her pocket picked with down 4 with about 45 seconds left, where she's trying. I mean, she's got to do a lot in the game, but she's doing a spin move. They're double, triple teaming her, and someone gets a hand in and cleanly picks her pocket, and then it ends up in a tie-up on the floor, or they call timeout, and she did not complain. She knew that she just lost the ball, and she got mad at herself and didn't say a word and walked to the sideline, and I'm thinking, okay, good. Go over to the bench. Don't complain to the refs about it. You got your pocket picked. It was a nice response from her because usually she's going to complain about it.
You want to hear some of these numbers that she's setting as a rookie?
Yeah.
So her stat line last night, it was the second 20-point, 15-assist game in league history. Let's see.
Not a lot of passing in the WNBA. That was my first thought. Man, not a lot of assists. A lot of one-on-one. A lot of hero ball happening.
Yeah, you're right.
A lot of ISO.
A lot of jumpers. Clark is the first rookie and 9th player overall in the history of the league with at least 400 points and 200 assists in a season. And now, 26 games into the year, Clark has scored or assisted on 915 points. That's a rookie single-season record. 213 assists. That's also second by a rookie. And again, she's going to break that in a game or two. And this is on a team that's 11-15, but was at the bottom of the barrel, but is now in the playoffs currently, albeit practically the entire league gets into the postseason. But last night, she scored or assisted on 66 of their 93 points. Were you surprised that you saw 93 points in the league?
You know, when I watched,
I was.
I am amazed about the lack of offense at times in the league. I mean, that's that right there. The fact that there's only been one 20-point, 15-assist game in the 20-something, some odd year history of the league, 25 years or whatever they've been around there. That surprises me. Yeah, that's a lot of points. I felt like that was a good offensive game.
I think there are a ton of 20-point, 15 rebound games, right?
Yeah.
But not assists.
15 assists.
The rebound putback, that's how they're getting points. Offensive boards.
Very one-dimensional in, you're a scorer, you're a passer, you're a rebounder, I guess. It's not a lot of players doing all of those things.
Are
Certainly
you surprised that 19 assists is the NBA record in a game? I am.
The W record?
The W record.
Little surprised by that.
Me too.
But I can't pretend to be overly surprised about a sport I just started watching 2 months ago.
Well, it was Courtney Vandersloot.
About a league I started watching 2 months ago.
Courtney Vandersloot, who had 18 in a playoff game.
Hun, do you think I'll ever be invited on a show as a W expert one day? Do you think shows are going to have me on and interview me like I'm Monica McNutt?
You'll be OutKick's W reporter.
Chad, tell us about the
senior
Wings.
Reporter of the W.
Tell us about the Wings front court and what they're looking at this offseason. Well, they're into the luxury cap, guys, so I'm not sure that there's a free agent they can afford. Is there a luxury cap in the WNBA? Luxury tax?
There may be 3 years from now when they reassess the rights fees.
You think the Indiana Fever will be one of those luxury tax teams?
Probably.
Yeah, they should be.
They absolutely should be.
Go all in, Indy. Now is the time.
Timing's everything for Caitlin Clark, the WNBA. Chet, timing's everything for Donald Trump and going into the Republican National Convention. Timing's everything for Joe Biden and what we're seeing right now across politics. Timing is everything for college football. When you're making the jump, when you're not. Think about Colorado going to the Big 12 versus what the Pac-12 was doing and the trash that was talked about them jumping, and then what we saw happen with the Pac-12 and Big 10 and some of those programs like Oregon doing the exact same thing. Timing will be everything for college football leadership. And I don't know if the time is exactly today, right now, but it just so happens that it times up with Nick Saban making the jump into media, making the jump after retirement, where he is, I've called him the de facto commissioner already of college football because he's going to be on weekly, if not twice, 3 times a week, doing different things. And what he says is going to carry a lot of weight, more weight than practically anyone across the sport. And the timing matches up now with Charlie Baker, president of the NCAA, going to the NCAA Council and presenting a new governance where we would see a split into a 2 different governing bodies. One would be the Power 4, and everyone else would be a part of the rest. We haven't seen a split like this since Division I and Division II, which was 1978. And while you also have the SEC and the Big Ten, they formed this advisory board, this advisory committee, or group, whatever you want to call it, to look at issues like this. This NCAA council, Chad, Greg Sankey sits on this council, 40 members. Only 14 of the 40, however, are from the Power 5 at the time, when there was a Power 5. That stuns me because what Charlie Baker is presenting, he's presenting to a group that is made up of like a Division III president who's going to be voting on a roster cap, potentially, for college football. This does need to change. And I think this is the direction that Baker's looking at. And from a power structure, you would have your own governing body for college football, for the Power 4, where annually, based on the lawsuit that was recently settled, you'll end up with, what, $22 million, I believe, is what can be distributed annually across rosters that teams can go up to. We may see a roster cap, maybe a salary cap. Maybe you have some new windows for transfer portal. Maybe you have recruiting rules altogether. Maybe discipline is different based on what you have for the Power 4 and how they govern itself. We certainly know the college football playoff would be way different. And 68 programs, if they choose to all just split up and band together, they need that leader. And it doesn't need to be a de facto leader. I don't think it can be Greg Sankey. I don't think he's trusted. I think he's trusted, but not really behind the scenes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't think it could be a big. It can't be Petiti either because again, there is even though they have this advisory group, it's not a. There's that rivalry between each other. There's a competitiveness.
It can't be a bureaucrat.
I think it's got to be it has to be a coach figure. And if it's not the figure, it's the leader. And it is the coach. It's Coach Saban. But he doesn't want it. Or at least he says so. I mean, you can have your cabinet, but you've got to have your president. And I can't think of a better person to lead this than Saban, as long as you have someone that's going to listen to various opinions and be in the here and now and take us forward to where we get out of this purgatory. Because we're not going backwards. Saban, I think, would go back in time and be the old school coach. But he's always adapted over his career, even to the college football offenses. He hated, at the time, what he said it was dangerous injury concerns for the mobile quarterback, bootlegs, getting out of the pocket.
Well, playing fast, too, was dangerous.
Yeah, then look at what we're seeing now at Alabama. Heisman Trophy winners at quarterback, which we didn't see, playing that style of offense. I realize not every fan is going to be like, oh, we can't trust Sankey, we can't trust Saban. I think by and large the guy is respected, admired, and what he says is a lot like Belichick or Brady. Who's going to say, no, that's wrong? Because they've been there and done that. And they can criticize literally anybody they want to. Because, again, those people that they're going to be criticizing or praising will look up at them and say, yeah, I mean, I've been blessed or cursed by the hand of someone that's, the GOAT. I love that. I just wish he wanted it.
To me, it's a lot like you talked about, politics. People who run for office oftentimes, not always, but people who run for office or want power or want a high-ranking position aren't the ones who should have that job. And the ones that should be running for office or should have that job don't want a part of it. They don't want to do that. They understand the pitfalls. They know the issues with it. I feel that way about Nick Saban. Hutton, I agree with you. He should be the guy. He should be the commissioner of college football that leads major college football into whatever the next chapter will look like. But he doesn't want it because he understands all the headaches that will surround it, all the different power brokers that you have to appease, all the different athletic directors and coaches and school presidents and everyone who's going to have a problem with every little thing. He understands that. And for someone who had to deal with a lot of people while he was the head coach at Alabama and everywhere else, he understands the problems with that. He don't want that at this point in his life. That's why he retired from coaching. So who should it be then? Who's next? Well, there's going to be a lot of people grasping at the rings of power that want that gig, that want to be the Roger Goodell of major college football and whatever we call it next. I would argue those that want it the most and that petition for it the most are the ones unfit to be the leader of that next organization. It's the ones that we're going to be begging to take that job. They won't take it. So who are you going to find? It's going to be, as Saban hinted, and I think Greg Sankey does a good job. I think Tony Petiti is doing a good job. It's going to be more of a bureaucrat-type figure that's got a law background, that's got a little bit of marketing, that's going to be more of a manager that maybe we don't even know their name. It's going to take one of them agreeing, okay, I'll do this. It's going to be a new thing. We're going to learn through this, all this together. That's what it's going to take. And I think that's ultimately who is going to get this job. It's going to be someone that is a sitting commissioner now, someone that's a sitting CEO somewhere else that has more of that ability.
But I think it's going to be, from Saban's perspective, if Saban is, it's almost, I mean, he's not George Washington, but it's like someone who doesn't want it, but it's like, you're our guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you're our guy.
Right. And like George Washington stepping away from office.
He's on the boat. Saban's on the boat with the.
Well, and that's what I'm talking about, the power grab, right? Like so many that are going to be desperate for it, they want the power, and I don't think they're the ones that should have it. George Washington's a great historic example because George Washington made sure that America would not become a monarchy because a peaceful transfer of power. He stepped away. He knew that if he stayed, even though everyone wanted him to stay, it was going to be King George Washington this time, and America was going to be England at that point. So he knew
took down
to step away.
Statues and things.
So you need someone that's going to get that job and understand the responsibility behind it, be willing to step away, be willing to talk to all the right people with it. And I think everyone that we're going to go down a list of this person should do it, this person should do it, this person should do it, we're going to get 15, 20 deep before that person would take the job because they know how difficult it's going to be.
And what we know right now is 14 of the 40 members of this NCAA council, where the Power Five is supposed to have the legislative leverage, that's clearly not the case with 14 of the 40. Their votes have more weight, but again, you have Division III presidents voting on salary caps or roster caps and money distribution for football. They don't even have a football program at their school.
Right.
It impacts them zero. That has to change. And I do like the fact that Charlie Baker is at least coming to terms with this and presenting this. This was last month, at the very end of last month when he presented this.
It's smart, and it's the only way that the NCAA could still be a governing body over major college football, is to have this breakaway within the NCAA of the different classifications. Because if not, what we've been saying for months now, probably over a year, is, well, they just need to go do their own thing separate of the NCAA. The NCAA can have basketball and have other sports and, rowing and cross country and all that. They can manage that, but major college football should run itself. This is a way for the NCAA to still be in power while also ceding power to these major programs to do their own thing from a football perspective.
And it's a way to keep power over the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Where you don't have the total breakout
right.
and split.
So I see all that and say, this is the best of all worlds.
I like it,
if you get the right leadership and the right formula for it.
So what we don't want are the networks running things, right? They are, but you don't want the board to have no one on it but just the money, as you mentioned. We're going to find out about the money whenever the ACC is set to release, and the Florida Attorney General says the public's going to see what the ACC and ESPN actually has in writing. With these schools, the grant of rights between the conference and the programs, whenever they release the details of the grant of rights contract. That's coming up with ESPN. They're going to see this. This is also going to be eye-opening because of the language involved, where Florida State is arguing that the ACC, they don't own the rights, their name, image, likeness, their broadcast rights in perpetuity until 2036. The ACC apparently says they do, based on the language of this deal. I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by other subtle language. It's all in the wording of grant of rights and the television contract for 2036. And what the legal analysts are going to come back and tell us, Chad, about what Florida State and Clemson and practically anybody else that wants to join could do about splitting off before this grant of rights deal is up, which is a long ways away compared to what we've seen from other programs that have just paid the buyout and left.
I love the ACC's insistence to hold these two schools hostage against their will into a conference they no longer want to be a part of, because all this is doing is the end game for Florida's AG, for Florida State and Clemson and suing the ACC is they want to reach a settlement to either leave for free or greatly reduce that buyout to leave the conference. They want to be in the Big 12 or the SEC or the Big 10 next year if they can. They want to get out, but they can't afford to get out. So by pressuring them with a lawsuit, doing all this, now we're going to expose the grant of rights agreement with ESPN. They're hoping that the league just says, okay, great, you don't want to be here. Pay us this and you can leave. Pay us this plus legal fees, and now you can leave. That's what they want.
That's the holdup in Florida State joining the Big 12 or having any interest from other conferences, because right now, based on what the ACC is telling us, the grant of rights gives the rights to every home game for Florida State to the ACC through 2036. And what's that buyout worth?
And that's all it's about. But it's just, again, it's funny that the ACC is wanting to hold on to two programs who want nothing to do with them. In every way, they've shown that. They want out completely, But now it's just all about how much is it going to cost you to get out. And that's where we're going. This thing isn't going to some trial or anything. It's going to be a settled, okay, give us this and you can leave. That's how it's going to end, plus pay our legal fees or pay your own legal fees or whatever. That's where this is headed.
So whether this is enforceable,
I think both will be gone in a different conference next football season.
Whether or not this is enforceable is going to be decided by a judge right now, unless you come to the settlement. But you've got the ACC argues, and Florida State estimates, the estimate from Florida State that it risks losing up to $429 million in TV revenue. That's crazy. So you've got a lot of different motions and things going on, and in the meantime, you've got Florida's Attorney General. Again, the state. This is go back to we went through this with Tennessee and Virginia, the Commonwealth, Chad.
Yeah.
It's not just the university; it's the state that's going to be involved in this and is involved in this.
A lot of pressure to force a settlement so they can leave.
Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum have a beef.
They do.
This goes back to USC.
I love awkward TV radio moments, Hutton. You know I love those.
Yeah, well, and I love news coming out of SEC Media Days, right?
Yeah.
I love moments like this. So Lane Kiffin fired at USC. You're going to hear the audio of Finebaum and Kiffin going back and forth. But it's not the first time this offseason they've
So this back and forth happened this morning. Kiffin stuck around even after his day. He came on with Finebaum, and you'll hear him ribbing Paul Finebaum about something he said while he was at USC. The history here is earlier this summer in July, Paul Finebaum said something about, I don't find Lane Kiffin funny, and then something about he needs to make the college football playoff. Kiffin, in typical Kiffin fashion, joked, why are you so angry, Paul? I find you funny, and you should be happy because your Tennessee Vols just won a baseball national title. Something along those lines was the tweet. So that led to this today when Lane Kiffin appeared at the desk with Paul Finebaum.
I'll steal your line, but I was going through a deep depression over this incorrect guilt that you tried to lay on me, which preceded that move. Had something to do with Southern California.
Oh, yeah. When you got me fired at USC, I got myself fired at USC, but you didn't help.
It's a better
that.
story if I got you fired.
You really did. Because it is a true story that the athletic director and the president were on that trip. We were playing that night, and you were on College game day, and you had to make your big splash, and they were watching it, because I know the other person in the room that was watching it with them, and you said what a joke I was, and I'm the Miley Cyrus of college football coaching, and I should be fired, and they looked at each other, and later that night I was fired.
Yeah, by the way.
But hey, look what happened. I would have never gotten to work for Coach Saban. All these other things wouldn't happen, so I appreciate you for helping getting me fired. Thank you.
Look at what you're doing today. You're predicted to go to the playoff. And look at Miley Cyrus. She's had a nice comeback,
So
too.
you're wrong on that. I mean, you put me down with that. So really, I don't really know what you're good at. Like, you predicted that Coach Saban was done. That didn't happen. You basically said Miley Cyrus stinks, and she's still going.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's always great to be ridiculed by Lane Kiffin here at SEC Media.
So I think it's more playful than anything, little jabs there. But I love Lane.
Yeah. I love the sense of humor. It's also tough to tell because he's so deadpan with everything when he's talking to someone, if he's ever actually frustrated or not. He very rarely raises his voice about anything during an interview, but a little back and forth there with him and Finebaum. And it worked out pretty well for Lane Kiffin. He gets fired at USC. He gets mentored by Nick Saban, as he said. And now he's got a team that could very well compete for a national championship this year at Ole Miss.
And should. I mean, not could, but I think Chad should. That's the bar. I mean, if not now, win for him.
Well, to get to the playoff, to me, is the goal. But, yeah, I mean, it's a team that could compete into the playoff, not just make the playoff.
Too, man. They're going to host a game in the playoff at minimum.
Yeah, it feels like a Final Four possible type team for Ole Miss.
So yesterday we hit on you've got Billy Napier in Florida and the hot seat that is the Florida Gators head coach and what he's sitting on. Same goes for Sam Pittman at Arkansas. And here is Arkansas's coach cracking jokes.
Chris Hummer, 24/7 Sports. Just 2 years ago at this event, you're coming off a 9-4 season, and we're one of the most popular coaches in the country. Now, fair.
I'm popular now, just the wrong way.
Well, I was going to say fair enough.
I'm hot.
I was I was wondering, fair or not, like you are popping up on those lists. How do you think about the way
I'm
narrative?
like start of the list.
How do you think about the way narratives can shift in this sport in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, isn't it crazy? 2 years ago I was I was keynote speaker at AFCA and was one of the top 6 guys for the Coach of the Year award. Isn't it crazy? So I want to be that guy and not this one that was out there last year. I think we can be. Listen, what's fair is fair. I mean, if you're going to get patted on the back, you're going to get punched in the gut. And what's fair is fair. And to be honest with you, the only one that can really control the hot seat is me and what we do with our football team. And it's never been about me, so I'm really not concerned about it. I'm concerned about the state, the players, and our staff. And we got a good football team. Thanks for the question, though.
There's Sam Pittman just owning it. I can't imagine what that feels like going into a year like Napier and Pittman, where you kind of know you're dead man walking. And you know you're going to get paid, too.
I like Sam Pittman's approach better than Billy Napier, where he's bragging about the team's GPA. That's a very honest approach. Now, you can cross the line of when keeping it real goes wrong, when you're too real with the media, and it's not going to help you in recruiting or not going to help you with your team if you make too much of a joke about it. I thought that tone was fine. I mean, he's acknowledging, isn't that crazy? 2 years ago, I was up for National Coach of the Year, and everyone's talking about how great of a job I've done, and now, it's on me. But here I am on the hot seat 2 years later.
We're staring at Petrino.
He seems to have a great perspective
on
where he is right now and where that program is. But he also was pretty optimistic that they have a good team, and people are sleeping on Arkansas a bit. So I like Sam Pittman.
Me too.
When he talks, I like that honest approach. So we'll see how good Arkansas is this year.
Focused on calling the Hogs.
Yeah.
Calipari.
According to Barrett Salee, also an interesting quote coming out of SEC Media Days. Maybe the best one that I've seen so far. I don't know if we have this to show.
Yeah, his Arkansas's goal is to embrace the Hog.
Yeah, Sam Pittman says Arkansas' goal is to, quote, embrace the Hog.
I saw you said this earlier. Embrace the Hog.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean,
can you see that like all over the stadium? On the video boards?
You think Calipari didn't want to embrace the Hog that night?
Embrace the Hog.
He didn't want to call the Hogs all that much.
No, he was.
They put that video out.
He was playing.
You guys go ahead.
Oh, show me how to do it. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, great.
I got to go talk to these coaches, guys.
You guys do it again. Show that to me one more time. All right, great.